We're going to see what Dr. Berg has to say about autophagy, how it cleans our cells, um, our dead cells, and cleanses our body from a cellular level. Powerful stuff through fasting, of course.
So let's talk about the truth of something called autophagy. It's a fascinating biological process that's always happening to a certain degree. And I'm going to get into all the triggers and how long it takes to get an autophagy. But this is what autophagy does. It self-eats. It eats the junk from your body and transforms that into usable things. So it's like a very complex junkyard with a recycling unit right next to it. And when I say junk,
a complex intercell junkyard with a recycling unit inside. Only God can make something like that. That's powerful stuff. We get that through fasting.
I'm talking about unusable damaged proteins in the body, which trigger inflammation. Also, it recycles something called organelles. What's an organelle? Well, inside your cells, you have all these different machines that are on an assembly line to actually make certain stuff. You have the mitochondria, you have other machines that make certain proteins. Well, if there's any damage that goes on to that machinery, well, autophagy can take care of it. Wow. And autophagy helps to get rid of pathogens, right? Like bacteria, fungus, mold, and viruses. All of those can also trigger
bacteria, fungus, molds, and viruses. Autophagy is powerful stuff. This is what happens in your body once you fast, and allows your body, because you're not eating, to cleanse itself, to heal itself, because it's not wasting so much energy and time trying to digest food.
Inflammation as well. And it gets rid of something else called viral antigens. Now, what is a viral antigen? Well, there's something in viruses that signal your immune system to create a reaction that can also cause inflammation. And it's also part of the antibody production machine, which
just about every disease that we get is caused through inflammation. And most inflammation is caused through mucus. And we get mucus by eating foods like dairy products, processed food, and meat. Processed meat, fake meat, all that causes mucus, which causes inflammation, which causes many diseases. And autophagy helps to cleanse the body by fasting, by stuffing our yaps and allowing the body to self-heal. That's what autophagy is. It's self-cleaning, self-cleansing, self-healing. That's why we should fast several times a week if possible, at least once a week, to clean from the inside out. And there's not a pill or operation that you can go get at a doctor or a hospital that can do what autophagy does naturally. That's how God created our body.
I'm not going to get into, but what you should know is autophagy clears all that up. So if there's something in the background that is stirring up inflammation in your body, it can kind of wipe that out and start from like a ground zero level where you don't have that anymore. This is why autophagy is considered kind of like an anti-aging cleaning system of the body. And it doesn't just clean stuff up, it provides new.
Do you know how much money people spend every year on anti-aging products? And none of them is as good as autophagy. All we have to do is just stop eating for a specific amount of time and let our body cleanse itself and rejuvenate itself. Autophagy is powerful, man.
Raw material to build new things, new cells, as well as to provide fuel when you need it. So now, how do you get into autophagy? Well, you're already probably into autophagy to some degree. The question is it significant or not? To really create any type of significant autophagy, you need to deplete your reserves to some degree. You have to deplete some energy reserve in the body. And before I get into that, there's two things that will stop autophagy very fast. And the big one is sugar, okay, because that's a fuel source, and protein as well. But any significant amount of calories will stop this autophagy. Because think about what autophagy is. It's the recycling of proteins and other things that are related to that. And if you have enough protein available, it doesn't necessarily have to recycle your old proteins.
Right.
All right, so now here's what you need to know. Healthy cells and cancer cells. So this next thing I'm going to tell you is very important because autophagy, it sounds like it can really help you, but there's a paradox. It can actually hurt you in relationship to cancer. Autophagy acts as a very strong protective barrier against disease.
Wow, I didn't know it can hurt you through cancer. This is new information. Tell us, Dr. Berg. Explain it to us, brother.
So if you're constantly cleaning up those damaged mitochondria, you can bypass and avoid this cancer as well as avoiding a lot of other diseases. But if you let your body go to the point where you have cancer, autophagy can help the progression of cancer. It can help grow the cancer. Why? Because, well, autophagy is going to provide the resources for this cancer. It's going to provide the fuel for this cancer. Does that make sense? And there's multiple ways that autophagy can support cancer. And so there's one type of medicine that targets this one area. And what they have done is they've created autophagy inhibiting drugs to stop that from happening. And it seems to really help as an anti-cancer therapy. And one of the drugs is called hydroxychloroquine. But of course, there are a lot of side effects with all drugs. So research is also looking at non-toxic inhibitors of autophagy. So if someone had cancer, they can use those as well. And there's a lot of research on that. I'm going to put a link down below of a research paper that I just did a deep dive.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. See, that's why I listen to Dr. Berg. This guy's really, 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 really good with his research and what he comes up with and what he teaches us through his videos. Very informative. You should go over there and listen to him.
And I'm going to list some natural, mostly plant-based inhibitors of autophagy if someone has cancer. But realize that when I list these natural remedies, these are not things you're going to have to worry about to inhibit autophagy if you don't have cancer, okay? Because they're very healthy things for a healthy cell as well. But very unfortunately, we have this double-edged sword with autophagy. It can help you if you're healthy. It can hurt you if you're not healthy. Wow. And unfortunately, a lot of people wait until they get sick or wait until they get cancer before they do.
So he's saying that autophagy is something we should be doing now as healthy people to make sure that we don't get sick. So it's help prevent sickness and help prevent cancers and other things like that. Wow. So autophagy is powerful, man. I try to fast. I'm always fasting, really. At least a couple hours, a couple days, every single week. Right now, I've been doing I'm doing 2 meals a day is what I'm trying to do. As I lose more and more weight, doing every 2-3 days, I'll eat 1 meal. So I'm definitely allowing my body to cleanse itself. But you don't have to do what I'm doing. You can do at least 24 hours. Try that. 1 meal every day, 1 meal every other day. Or just skip breakfast, skip lunch and just eat dinner. But we have to allow our body to heal itself. God has created our body with the ability to heal itself and to prevent other diseases to come up if we allowing it to protect and heal itself.
Something about it, especially in the stimulation of more autophagy, right? Because autophagy can be very good if you're healthy and it can prevent a lot of problems.
Right.
So this might be one motivating factor for you to do what I'm going to tell you to do next to trigger more autophagy. Hands down, the single most potent thing to trigger autophagy is fasting, okay? Fasting. Right. Why? Because you're depleting your excess, your calories, and you're forcing your body to become very efficient by recycling a lot of these damaged proteins. Now, the big question is, how many hours of fasting do you really need to do before you start triggering autophagy?
I don't know.
Well, like I said before, you're already in autophagy to some degree. It could be just turned way down. And so just like with exercise, right? When you do exercise, you have two types of exercise. You have aerobic exercise, okay, and then you have anaerobic exercise. And each one of those uses a different type of fuel.
Right.
So if you're going to run up a hill, you're initially going to use your glucose, right? And then if you slow down and you're jogging, eventually you're going to start burning your fat. But during this process, you're really burning percentages of sugar and fat. And so when you're doing low intensity, long duration, you're burning more fat, but you're still burning a little sugar as well.
Okay.
So both the metabolism for sugar and fat are on dials, they're on dimmer switches. So the dimmer switch starts to be turned up as you start going into like about 18 hours of fasting.
Okay.
And it really starts.
So after about 18 hours of fasting is when we really start getting into the body using up all the leftover fat in our body so that we can start feeling the effects of autophagy or the benefits of autophagy. Good stuff.
Going up when you start getting into 48 to 72 hours of fasting.
That's the peak.
But a lot of this depends on what you're eating, okay? Because let's say you are eating a tremendous amount of sugar, right, or carbohydrates, and then you're going to go on this fast for 18 hours. Well, you might have to fast a lot longer because you're going to have to burn up all this sugar. You're going to also have to tap into your glycogen reserve in your liver and deplete that as well. So one really simple strategy is to go on a low sugar, low carbohydrate diet.
So what he's saying is that it don't make sense for us to be filling the storage to the brim and then trying to fast that storage out. He's saying that if we stay low and the storage is low, when we fast, the fast is more effective, it's more potent, it's more powerful because there's less stuff in the storage for the fast to have to take out. That makes sense.
So that way we don't have a lot of this sugar sitting there. We're going to tap into it and deplete it very quickly so you can actually have the benefits of autophagy a lot quicker. Now, the other little tip is we talked about protein, right?
So you're saying the less fat we have in the storage, the less sugar, the quicker the autophagy is effective in our bodies. Good stuff.
So if we want a little bit more advantage from autophagy, you wouldn't want to necessarily do a high protein diet. You'd want to do a moderate amount of proteins, right? Because again, we want to deplete these proteins. We want to fully digest them because as soon as you...
I really believe we're way too high on protein. We have this protein coldness going on in America. Everything's protein. We eat more protein than probably half the world. And then we're still all talking about, we're always talking about, we need more protein. No, we don't need that much protein.
The meal, it's going to take at least 8 hours for all those calories to be assimilated and go into your system. But out of all of the three macronutrients, fat, okay, is the least affected with autophagy. In other words, so if we compare fat to sugar, sugar is the one that really depletes the autophagy way more than fat. But that being said, if you're like snacking even on fat, which has a good amount of calories through the day, you're not going to really turn that dial up with autophagy. You need to actually fast and not eat anything. You can have certain nutrients, vitamins and minerals, and sea salt, but not any calories. This other tip I want to mention is related to doing a dry fast or a water fast. Now, what do I mean dry fast or water fast? Well, you're fasting, you're not eating anything except you're drinking water. That's called a water fast. A dry fast is you're not eating anything and you're not drinking anything. Apparently, when you do a dry fast, which means no food, no water, your body goes into a much deeper autophagy.
Right.
The effects are roughly about 3 times more than a water fast, which makes sense because you're adding more stress to the body and you're forcing a deeper cleansing. Now, you have to be in pretty good shape to do a prolonged dry.
Listen, I've done 21 days a liquid fast. I can't say just water because I like flavors. So I like to do like sparkling waters. I like to do tea. So I do liquid fast. I can't say I do just water fast. I've done 21 days of just liquids. I've never done a dry fast. Never. I don't know how. I'm pretty sure if I really stuck my mind to it, but I just have to have some kind of water, some kind of liquid. But for those who do drive fast, I salute you. Powerful stuff, because now your body is just working with just what it has, including whatever water the body has. So it goes into overdrive, and you get into autophagy a lot faster. As he says, it's 3 times more powerful, 3 times more effective for the cleansing of autophagy in your body when you do a dry fast. I do a liquid fast. For those who like me, I like flavors. I need to have some kind of flavor. So that's why I do liquids. And it works. It's not going to work. It ain't going to be as powerful as just water, but it's still powerful. Okay?
Fast, where you're not drinking water for sometimes a few days, which I'm not really promoting. But that being said, what if you were just to shift when you drank water to actually have more fasting without water? Like, for example, on your last meal, right? You drink water, but then you don't drink right before bed. And then all night long, you're fasting without water. You're doing dry.
Oh, that's a great idea. I never thought about that. I actually try to do that because I try not to drink by about 6 o'clock because I don't want to use the bathroom all night. So that's kind of a good way to do a dry fast. I didn't think about that. Do a dry fast. You just stop drinking all liquids and eating, and then use sleeping as a way to dry fast. That's genius, Dr. Berg. That's pretty smart. So we all kind of dry fast when we go to sleep for 6, 7 hours. Wow, I didn't think about that. Good.
Fasting, and you get a little bit more benefit from that. Because if you fasted from last night's dinner all the way until maybe noon or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and then you had your first drink of water, that may produce more results. And let's say you're still drinking 2.5 liters of fluid, but you're drinking that between, let's say, 12 noon or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock. Okay, so that's fasting. Number 2, cutting down your calories and not overeating does mimic fasting to a certain degree. If you were to consume, let's say, 500 calories, and not on a regular basis, just occasionally, that could help you increase your autophagy, especially if you're going to go into an actual fasting period of time.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're not eating a lot of calories, and you're going to use those up pretty quickly, and then you're going to go into autophagy much.
So he's saying a good way to prepare for a fast, a liquid fast, or if you can do the dry fast, is to the day before maybe, or the 2 days before, just do a 500, 800 calorie day. That way you're depleting all the sugar and all the fat from your body. So when you do start your fast, you're already on the low end. The storage doesn't have that much. So your fast will be a lot more powerful. It'll be a lot more effective. That's smart advice.
Faster, especially if those lowered amount of calories were lower amount of carbs and lower amount of protein, as in maybe a huge salad with a little bit of protein. All right, number 3, I kind of already talked about fasting, but I'm just, in this point, I want to bring up just doing consistent intermittent fasting with a minimum of 18 hours. But if you could push to 20 hours, that would be a lot better. And then combining that with number 4.
I think just about, unless you have some kind of medical issue or, whatever, you might be on some strong medication, but just about everybody else should be able to do an 18-hour fast. I mean, think about it. If you just go from 7 in the evening to 7 in the morning without eating, that's 12 hours. Then you don't eat again till maybe 1, 2, depending on the math, 3 o'clock. That's 18 hours around there. So just about everybody can do that. You skip breakfast. The evening before, after you don't eat no further than 6, 7, then you skip breakfast and you eat a little later lunch, you have 18, 19 hours fast.
Which is exercise. Exercise depletes your resources. It stimulates autophagy. And believe it or not, aerobic exercise, right? A lower intensity, longer duration.
What I do is that I walk. I get up in the morning and I walk while I'm fasted. And then at night, I get home, I walk on my treadmill because I got a computer desk on my treadmill so I can walk and do my work when I get home. And that is powerful. That has allowed me to lose 20, 30 pounds just walking. I used to think that only running you lose that weight, but now walking as well. As a matter of fact, I believe there's some research that recently came out that walking digs deep into the visceral fat as well with the fasting on autophagy.
Will stimulate more autophagy than high intensity resistant training. But I recommend to do both of them, because if you look at a long distance runner, they probably go through a lot of autophagy, but they're very, very thin. They don't have as much muscle versus someone that does weight training or resistant type training. Developing those muscles are very, very healthy for many reasons. So autophagy and building up muscles don't really mix too well. So I would highly recommend to do a combination of both. But the point is that let's say you're doing intermittent fasting and you actually do a workout, okay, during the fast. That can compound things and make things better because you're tapping out your resources. You're using up your resources when you're fasting because you're not eating anything, and you're increasing your metabolism and you're using up your ATP, causing an increase in autophagy. And just as a side note, we've mentioned with water and everything, I don't know if you know this, but when you actually burn fat, your body does release water, okay? Yeah, you get water from burning fat. So your body's not completely starving without water. Now, number 5, and I've already mentioned this before, I just want to emphasize it, to really build up autophagy, you want to reduce your carbs as low as possible.
Yeah.
You know why? We want to reduce those carbs. And number 6, I already talked about this, but I want to emphasize it. You don't necessarily want to go too high with your protein. Go lower with the amount of protein. And I'm not talking about low protein diet. I'm talking about a moderate amount of protein. And then number 7, there's certain phytonutrients that create a hormetic or a stress response to the body that can trigger autophagy to a certain degree. There's certain phytonutrients in coffee, tea, especially green tea, berberine, adaptogens like ashwagandha, certain mushrooms, ginger, things like that. Now, before we end off, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about cancer.
By the way, 2 of the most strongest, healthiest things you can put in your body for healing is ginger, turmeric, and I would add also 3 with lemon or lime. Those are the most powerful things you can put in your body that cleanses and heals your body. You're about to hit us with autophagy and cancer.
If someone has cancer, whatever program that they do, they probably also want to add a few of these items I'm going to talk about that are researched. And I'll put the link down below of things that can inhibit autophagy. So that way we can starve off the cancer even more. In addition to not feeding the thing that cancer just loves the most, which is sugar. Now I want to list some of the natural inhibitors of autophagy. All right, number 1, stony sponge. Okay, you probably have a sponge right now in your kitchen, right? Well, apparently the stony sponge has certain properties that can inhibit autophagy. Apigenin, that's a phytochemical that is in certain foods. You can look that up. It's in a lot of different foods. Curcumin, which is in turmeric. Okay, that's one. Black cumin seed, that's another one. The next one is thunder of God vine. And then retinol, which is the active form of vitamin A. All of those are being researched right now for their natural inhibition of autophagy, which is one strategy for cancer. Like 54% are being researched by drug companies right now, finding ways to extract and then, put them in certain compounds where they can patent them. But I will say this one last thing about drug companies, as much as
they just always trying to make a buck. They don't want to heal nobody. They want you to pay them as much as you can pay them, so that they can be rich and you still die.
Can't stand them. If they could at least come up with remedies or treatments that have low side effects, that would be a great thing. Now, because of the censoring and the suppressing of the algorithms on YouTube, it's becoming more difficult to find my content. And there's a lot of content that I cannot put on YouTube, unfortunately. So to make sure you have full access of all my information, go to drberg.com and subscribe to my newsletter.
And subscribe, hit the bell button, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.